And it's time for us to say a very good morning and thank you, Mr. Nico Kleynhans.
Good morning to you and also to the listeners.
Nico, I wanted to ask your advice when it comes to medical aids and so forth. We received this WhatsApp message, and just to protect the person's identity, we're going to give them a random name. Let's call the person Carl. And Carl sent a message saying, I am in huge financial predicament, which could cost my son, who is 16 years old, his health. I cannot afford his chronic medication that the medical aid does not pay for, and I cannot get assistance from a government clinic because I have medical aid. I have a good job, but my expenses exceed my income. Please help.
Okay. South Africa has 3 categories of products that deal with private healthcare. The first is what we know as medical aids. The regulator is the Council of Medical Schemes, and that is the statutory body that was created in 1998, supposedly to protect the members of medical aid societies.
You say supposedly because...
Yes. And people like Bonitas and Discovery Health. If you are in those medical aid schemes, then that is the regulator that is supposed to protect you.
Okay.
Then you have health plans, which is health insurance, and that's what you get from Dis-Chem and Clicks. That's a relatively new product. You pay them a set amount of money, and then they will link you to an online doctor, usually unlimited visits, and those are conducted via a Zoom-type experience.
Wow.
And you pay the equivalent of 250 to 400 rand, and then a doctor conducts the interview. Now, that doesn't really help this kind of situation. And then you have gap cover. Now, gap cover is linked to medical aids, and that is what pays out if you're in hospital and a doctor charges you above what's called medical aid rates.
Mm.
Now, in terms of the Medical Aid Act, certain chronic medication is supposed to be covered in full.
Yeah.
In theory.
Oh.
In theory. Now, I have very strong views on the regulator. I have very strong views on the Minister of Health that was there in 1998 and subsequent to that. And I have even stronger views about the president of the country at that time. So when the licensing changed, I handed back my license on medical aids. And so I'm technically not allowed to give advice on medical aids.
Okay.
So what you need to understand today, I'm not giving you advice, but I can tell you what I do.
Okay.
And I can tell you what options are available. Don't consider that advice. And please, to the listeners who now want to send me files and files and files, I can't actually help you because I'm not licensed to do that. But I have a strong view on justice and fairness, and I know what options are open, and some of those options can work. Okay. So if that was my situation and in my family and what I have done when I'm affected by chronic medication and where the medical aid goes offline, every medical aid society has a committee that sits in the background. And that committee looks at disputes when they arise. And you can appeal directly to that committee. And how you deal with it is you indicate to that committee what your problem is. You give them as much information as you can for them to identify who you are and for them to go and look up what has been happening. It helps if your doctor participates in the process, because the bottom line is, if your child is going to die if you don't get help, then that medical aid has to, on compassionate grounds, reconsider their decision.
Brilliant.
And there are ways that, in spite of that problem, you can access the government healthcare system. There are ways that that door can be opened. So don't just assume, because somebody who is a clerk at the Medical Aid Society, who's looking at the standard rules and just pushing a button based on software says no, that is the final answer. You can log an appeal. This kind of situation, and the other one that I had within 2 days of what this one that you shared with me, makes me feel that there are clearly a lot of other parents whose family life depends on some kind of movement by medical aids. At the end of the day, the Medical Aid Society is a not-for-profit organization.
Oh.
They are pulling in billions of rand in premiums. And what may be the 30 or 40,000 a month that you cannot afford, in terms of the kind of funding they have, may be possible. So folks, log that appeal. Get your doctor's help if necessary. And I really trust that as you make some kind of progress, at least you're fighting back on the system, and your child's life is worth fighting for.
Definitely. Sure. Nico, thank you so